Boy, it's hot in Washington, D.C. That's why I'm not wearing a jacket. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about Teunis Collier and how he had worked on a couple of my listings. And one of the viewers called in and said, "Hey, that's my grandfather." Inspired me to do a deep dive. And boy, was it rewarding. So Teunis Collier was a heck of a lot more than like a guy with a crazy Dutch name. He was a contractor from the 1920s through the 70s. He died in 1985, that worked on historic houses all over the district, but of course had a real focus on the Georgetown ones. He lived right here in this house on the corner of 30th and Dent. Just the work that he did on historic preservation would be enough to mention him and remember him. But there's so much more. He was head of CAG in 1949, right on the eve of the old Georgetown Act of 1950. So it was kind of his leadership with tree boxes and brick sidewalks and a kind of measured approach to historic preservation that laid the groundwork for that act and has given us such a great neighborhood today. But then he was also a one-man crusade against the police department about parking enforcement. So somehow he discovered that the parking around Georgetown was really not that systematic and that people were getting tickets and those tickets were systematically getting fixed. So he subpoenaed all of the tickets from the police department and discovered that there was all of this fixing going on and that all of these arbitrary tickets were going on. Had a big fight with the local police officers where they were egging his house, following him around, sticking nails in his tires. But at the end of the day, he was successful, and by 1939, the police had to have duplicate ticket books that were audited downtown and fix the whole thing right up. So if you can believe it, on top of that, he was also a witness in the Algier Hiss Whittaker Chambers espionage trial. So anyone who's not familiar with this, is a huge trial in the 1950s where Whittaker Chambers accuses Algier Hiss of being a Soviet agent, and he says, "Oh, you know, I used to deliver papers to that guy 10 years ago." So it was critical in his word versus his word what Whittaker Chambers' credibility was. And one of the ways that they would judge it was how he remembered, you know, what houses they were and what the house looked like where he dropped off the papers. They had no way of knowing what was happening 10 years ago, so they subpoenaed all of Teunis Collier's records, and they were able to say, "Oh no, you know, these houses were green back then," or "that porch didn't even exist back then." Not that it did Algier Hiss much good. I also just have to mention the name, Teunis. Some people pronounce it Teunis, and what it is it's a diminutive of Antonius. It's Dutch. Anyway, no one talks about this guy anymore. No one even knows that he existed, but he touched all of our lives, all this brick, all this historic preservation, all these getting your tickets, all can be traced back to this guy who lived right here. Teunis Collier, right here.